anyway, but also you should know about that we are kind of, it's very hard to mix a band like this, and we're kind of at the mercy of like the sound system in here, so if maybe you thought that was a little too loud, then think about contributing on the third when we have our offering. That's why we need a sound system. So anyway, we're going to raise that money like that from some of y'all. So anyway, then we'll have to turn it down. Okay. So we're in this series called Audacious Faith, and we're looking at this. And last week we started this, and if you just want a quick review, maybe you weren't here, this is the most important thing you need to know. What we talked about was simply this. The simple act of faith. That simple act of faith, and we define that by Hebrews 11:1. He says, now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. That's faith. We said that simple act of faith is incredibly important to God. I mean, to God, that is everything. In fact, God divides the whole world into two groups. He doesn't, contrary to popular thought, He doesn't divide the whole world into good people and bad people. He doesn't divide the whole world into wealthy people and unwealthy people, or United States of America and everybody else. He doesn't divide that the way we kind of do. He divides it like this. There's people who have faith in Him, and there's people that don't have faith. This simple act of faith is incredibly, incredibly important to God. And so what we're doing is we're going through Hebrews 11, and we're just looking at this, and we're defining it, and we're talking about, so what does it mean to have faith? And what I want to talk about today is this simple concept. All of us put faith in something or somebody, right? It's just a part of living. You have to put faith in something or somebody at some point in your life. But what we do intuitively, and it's right that we should do this, we try to narrow that faith margin as much as possible. Right? We try to, and it's smart, and it's the way we're wired, and it's a good thing to do. We try to take steps that require as little faith as possible. And it's a good thing. For instance, if you get ready to invest your money, you want to go with somebody that's credible, somebody that's reputable, somebody, that you know somebody that's had experience, or you could go with your crazy Uncle Larry, right? Like you could do this, but you don't want to do that. You want to narrow the faith margin, and so you want to take as little step of faith as possible, and it's right that we would want to do that. The problem is, because we find ourselves trying to narrow that faith margin, we are forced to put our faith in things that we experience, things that we can see, things that we can understand. And because of that, we continually put our faith in over and over and over again in things that we can see and experience, and those things have something wrong with them. Those things, there's two things wrong. Number one, they cycle. And number two, they're temporary. We're constantly putting our faith, because we want to narrow that faith margin, we want to put our faith in something we can experience. But the problem with those things that we can experience a lot of times is they cycle and they're temporary. Let me explain what I mean by they're cycle and they're temporary. For instance, if you are a Lions fan, I know some of you have abandoned the Lions a long time ago. How many people, because you're a Lions fan, have a number 2 team? How many people have he's like, yeah, the Ravens won. I'm like, oh, you're a Ravens fan? He's like, well, technically I'm a Lions fan, but my number 2 team is the Ravens. But anyway, so the Lions, you've experienced this if you are a Lions fan. You've been through the cycle. I've only lived here for 2 years, and in that 2 years, I've seen the full cycle of the Lions. So the first season, 5 wins in a row. 5 wins in a row. And I'm thinking, man, we came to the right town. This is going to be fun. I actually went out and bought a Lions cap, or like a hat and stuff. And I lost it since then. But anyway, misplaced it for that. But anyway, I got invested. That's great. So we saw that. Aspirations, Calvin Johnson this year. Boy, it would have been cool to win 5 games altogether, right? And so we were going through that, and so I've seen this cycle. And if you put your faith in the Lions, and I don't really think that anybody has their heart and soul tied into the Lions. You've got problems if you do. But anyway, but if you put your faith, you're going to go through that same cycle later, because you're attached to whatever you put your faith in. So they have a good year, good game, bad. You're going to start to look like that. You're attached to it. Let me Oh, and on top of that, so they cycle, they go through that cycle, and on top of that, they're temporary. We have no guarantee that the Lions are even going to remain a franchise, right? And so everything in our life is like that. They cycle, and they're temporary. But let's talk about something like more important, like that we put our faith in. A lot of times we put our faith in the economy. Okay? And some of you are out there going, I don't have my faith in the economy. And I'm like, no, everybody in here, at least to some degree, has your faith in the economy. I can prove it to you. Tomorrow morning you wake up, click on the TV. Matt Lauer's talking. If you watch Matt Lauer. Matt Lauer comes on TV and he says, new reports, turns out that real estate in Michigan is skyrocketing. Everything, people's houses are going to be worth so much. What happens to you? All of a sudden you're filled with like hope and inspiration, and that week you're like, man, maybe my house is going to be worth something. Maybe that's a complete waste. And then what happens? A week later, let's say Matt Lauer comes on again, we're like, we're wrong. We got our arrow pointed the wrong way. Actually, it was upside down. And it turns out real estate in Michigan is going to continue to plummet. You know? So if they look at that, what happens to you? All of a sudden, you can realize you've got some faith invested in the economy. The problem with the economy is what? It cycles. It's going to go up. You need to know that no matter what happens, it's going to go up and it's going to go down. And during your life, you've seen that. And on top of that, it's temporary. It doesn't last. It doesn't last. How about this? Many of you, many of us, put our faith in relationships. There was at least a point, even the biggest, strongest man in the room, where there was a point in your life where you were looking forward to marriage. You were looking forward to that. You had your hope in this life that you were going to build, and that dream has been crushed. But, you know, by some of you. No, you had that, and there's this relationship, or maybe, maybe you're single right now, and you kind of have this hope that I'm putting my faith in this idea that one day I'm going to have like this stable relationship, and they're going to be good to me, and I'm going to be good to them, and so we put our faith in it. The problem is that relationship cycles. So every time like something happens, or things aren't going, or you and your boyfriend have a fight, it's kind of cycles like that. Or even in marriage. Even the best marriages have really bad years. Even good marriages have really bad years. Like, I don't know if you've talked to somebody that's been married for 40 years, and they're like, oh, we love each other. From 84 to 91, that was weird. It was a weird time in our life, right? So, even in a good, overall good relationship, it cycles and goes, and on top of that, it's temporary. And you don't have any idea how long that relationship's going to last. And maybe it ends up in divorce, or maybe it just ends when you die, and that relationship doesn't last. So we're trying to narrow that faith margin. And so we're looking at all these things, and so we just naturally put our faith in something that we can see and that we can experience. We said one more thing about that, then we're going to get into some scripture. And some of you might be like, okay, so yeah, I get that. You're talking about these people that are kind of like this, and they've got their faith and stuff, and they're just those emotional people. Well, let me say, yeah, emotional people put faith in emotional things, and so a lot of times their roller coaster looks like this, and it can often change between breakfast and lunch, right? You know these people. I know some of you are sitting beside these folks. But there's also those of you that are a little bit more logical. Maybe you put your faith in like a bigger picture thing. And your faith is in something more like your career or the kingdom that you're building or your business. And it may be, you may be 40 or 50 or 60 years old down the road before you realize that the thing you put your faith in cycles and that it's temporary. And so your roller coaster looks a little bit more like this, but it's still, you put your faith in something that cycles and it's temporary. Okay, so I think we got it. Now here's what God asks us to do. God recognizes that when He asks us to put our faith in Him, He's asking us to widen that faith margin. He's asking us to widen it significantly. He's asking us to put our faith in Him even though we've never seen Him. He wants us to put, never laid eyes on Him, but He wants us to put our faith in Him completely. And He asks us to widen it. But the thing is, here's His promise, here's His guarantee. He says, I want you to widen that faith margin. But when you put your faith in me, I've got to tell you something. I don't cycle. I'm not temporary. I'm an eternal God. I'm asking you to put stock. Yeah, it takes a bigger jump of faith, but I'm asking you to put stock in something that the Bible calls everlasting. So today, as we come and we talk about faith, we're going to put our faith in, and it's a bigger jump of faith than we're used to a lot of times. We're going to put our faith in an everlasting God. So let's jump into Hebrews chapter 11. In Hebrews 11, we're going to pick up in verse 8. He gives us these little snippets, just a quick picture of some of these Old Testament guys. In verse 8, we're going to learn about Abraham. Now by faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land, like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. Now, it's just a quick snippet of this much bigger story that's in the book of Genesis. In the book of Genesis, God comes to a guy, comes to Abraham. He says, hey, I want you to pick up and I want you to go to a place that I will show you. He didn't hand him a map. He didn't give him anything like that. He said, I just want you to go where I'm going to show you to go. And it's going to be this complete act of faith. And it doesn't really tell about his struggle, Abraham's internal struggle, like should I do it or should I not do it? It just says the next verse, and so he went. And so he went. So he just went on faith, believing where he was going to go. And God took him like 800 miles away to the land of Canaan. Now, just a perspective, just remember, 800 miles away might as well be the other side of the world. They don't have good roads, and they don't have, they can't pack up everything in a U-Haul. I mean, he is on the other side of the world. He's leaving his family and all of his connections. He doesn't know what the people are like on the other side of the world. So he gets over there, and he does that all by faith. And sometimes the mistake we make is thinking that he did that because he was sure of what he was going to get when he got there. So I'm going to go to Canaan. Yes, God's going to take me there, and I know it's going to just be this awesome, wonderful thing when I get there, and it's going to be this huge promise. But that isn't why he went to Canaan. That isn't why he was obedient to God. The next verse gives us a really good perspective on why he went. Verse 10. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. And that's not talking about Canaan. He was obedient to God, not because he knew that Canaan was going to be this great experience, but he was obedient to God because he had this hope in this eternal city that was going to be built by God himself. That's where he put his faith. Now let me try to connect that. Why that's such a big deal. My dad, one of the few things I remember, I grew up on a farm in northwest Nebraska. I remember watching my dad pray. And the reason he would pray is because we were kind of at a high elevation. We're up in the high plains over there, almost all the way to Wyoming. And so we got hail all the time. Just hailstorms like crazy. It was just a common thing. And in 1983, my dad got completely wiped out. Every hailstone stripped every cod of corn off that, just all 400 acres just completely leveled to the ground. And so every year past that, every time there was a little storm or a little cloud or a little gust of wind, I would see my dad kind of go out to the garage. And I would see him just like willing that storm to not happen. Like willing it to turn from hail to rain when it fell down on the ground. And he was praying to God. I just knew what he was praying. I knew he was praying, God, just don't let it fall as hail. Bring us rain because we need rain. I remember sitting there watching him do that, and to me that was like prayer. We ask God to do stuff in our temporary life that cycles. So we look to an eternal, everlasting God, and we ask him to fix things in our life that cycle and that are temporary. And I got to ask the question, is that really faith in God? Because we're putting our faith in God, and really what we're doing is we're staying focused on that temporary, that thing we already have our faith in, whatever your family farm is. And we're saying, God, we want, could you come? Like, we need some help here. We'd like you to come fix this. Could you come help fix this? And many times that faith is just on the same thing, except, you're using prayer to make it happen. And so we go through our life, and we're putting faith in these temporary cyclical things, and we're asking God to be a part of it. But that's not what Abraham was. Abraham looked beyond Canaan. He looked beyond what the payout was, and he said, I'm going to do this because I believe in this eternal God and the city one day in the future with foundations that are built by God himself. And that, to me, is where faith goes from being kind of superficial or small to being really deep, really strong faith. And that faith doesn't become on what God can do for you or how God can meet your needs, because we'll all be disappointed. That's where our faith is. We'll all be disappointed if our faith is in our expectancy of God. When we first got married, Bethany wanted me to take the trash out. But I didn't know that. Any newlywed guys have this issue? I guess in her home, that was her dad's responsibility. He took out the trash every year. So we got married and everything, and I saw the trash piling up, right? So I acknowledged that it was there. And I thought I'm going to get around to that or whatever. And then my wife came, she was just a little frustrated with me. And she was like, the trash hasn't been taken out. I'm like, the trash hasn't been taken out. She'd be like, that's your job. This is the first I had heard of it. So I turned to her and I said, it wasn't as clever or as good as this, but I turned and said something like, what we have here is an expectancy problem, right? You have what you expect, even though I never in any way told you that I was ever going to do that. I promised you that. So we need to work on not so much what I'm doing, but your expectancy of what you want me to do. And then I took out the trash. You know how that works. So anyway, laid down the law. And that's exactly what we do with God. We go to God with this expectancy. We expect God to do this, we expect God to do that, and then that doesn't happen. And what you got to realize at the end of the day is you didn't really have your faith in this everlasting God. You had your faith in kind of what you expected God to do in your life. And so again, that's where faith, I think, becomes very, very deep when you're looking for something beyond your situation, your temporary cyclical situation. Let's read on here. Verse 11. By faith, Abraham, even though he was past age, and Sarah herself was barren, was enabled to become a father, because he considered him faithful who had made the promise. And so, from this one man, and he as good as dead, that means he's old. It's just a funny way to say it. I'm going to start saying that about old people. You're like 85? Well, you're as good as dead! I'm just saying, that's what it says right here. Okay. And so from this one man, and he was as good as dead, came descendants and numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore. Now listen to this, because I love this section of Scripture. Verse 13. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance. And they admitted that they were aliens and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had an opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. Now this is the great message of the Bible. The great message of the Bible is there is this heavenly kingdom. There is this thing to look forward. And the Bible tries to tell us all different kinds of ways that this kingdom is like forever and ever and ever and ever. It is an everlasting thing. And it goes on and on and on, and it's like paradise. And we sit there and go, yeah, I don't know. Kind of unimpressed, kind of unmoved by that. And we're like, we would really like something like this week. That would be helpful. I mean, that sounds really good, but right now is what we would like. And the Bible keeps trying to connect us over and over again. No, widen that margin. Put your faith in something that is down the road, put your faith in this everlasting kingdom where we will be forever and ever and ever. And so, if you have that view, you can look back and you can have that view, this world becomes, like it said, aliens and strangers. Like we don't belong here. Just out of curiosity, how many people have been to a foreign country? Even if it's Canada, we'll count that. A lot of people have been to a foreign country. One of my foreign country experiences was Haiti. So we go to Haiti, and it's like one of the most broken governments you've ever seen. I mean, it's like worse than Detroit. And so they got playing. I got to quit doing that, picking on that. So anyway, their government has just been broken. It's been broken for years. And just all kinds of corruption. And the missionary there was just telling me about the corruption. It was like, oh yeah, they change money, they don't care about the people. The people are basically starving because their government is all ordering it for themselves. And here's the thing, even though I had total compassion and pity for the people that were there, the people in the country, I didn't really care. Right? Like, I mean, I wanted to support our missionary and I wanted to help the individuals there, but when it comes to their government, I don't care, because I'm going to go home and eat nachos and watch the Packers play football, right? Like I'm going to come back to the good old USA, you know, and so, because that's not where my citizenship is. I'm not a member of Haiti. I'm not subject to that government. In fact, as he told me these stories about corruption, the only fear I had was in the 9 days that we were there, that like the government was going to completely collapse and we weren't going to be able to get out, right? That was my biggest concern, that we weren't going to be able to fly away. But that wasn't my homeland. And the Bible comes to us and says, if you have faith in Jesus Christ and you belong to this everlasting kingdom, you're a stranger here. You're an alien here. You don't belong here. I mean, you got to pay taxes. Everybody pay taxes and everything. But your kingdom is completely different. And that is where faith becomes deeper, becomes richer, becomes more when we put our faith in there. So I want to be super practical today. I just want to give 3 things. Like if you want to like deepen your faith and just throughout your life, I want to give you 3 things that we're going to throw up on the screen here. First one, look at everything through an eternal perspective. So yeah, just imagine you're down the road in your life 100 years. That's right, I said 100 years. You're not only as good as dead, you're moved on past that. And you're looking back at your life from that eternal perspective. That's what matters. And you've got to ask yourself the question, what has God really promised you? What has He really promised you? And most of the time, that's what He's promised you. He's promised you eternity and you can connect with that. I'll give you a verse here from 2 Corinthians 4, verse 8. I think I'm right about there, right, Joe? 2 Corinthians 4. Then it goes 7. Oh, there's 8. But that's not what it is. I'll just read it off this. That was a technical problem. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. That's the deepening of the faith, that we constantly take our eyes off of what is seen and put it on what is unseen. And you've got to do that over and over and over again. I got to tell you, like one thing, we just go over and over and do this again. As this church is starting up and everything, you know, there's a lot to do. I don't know if you guys know this, but we have a problem. We have too many people for the Flat Rock Community Center, right? Because they originally told us, oh, it seats 300. And we're like, okay, I ought to do this and stuff. And now we're like, it's a problem. So, and we're coming up right to it, so we got to figure out how to do 2 services, or maybe figure out something. That's a good problem to have, right? And so we've got too many people to get in there, and so I'm all stressed out about this. And don't get me wrong, like I need to make some phone calls, and stuff needs to happen. But at the same time, through an eternal perspective, I just got to go, this is like in God's hands. Like I got to work, I got to move forward, but I got to look back. And sometimes I have to do that like 5 times a day. 5 times a day, I have to pull myself aside, I have to close my eyes, I have to do something, just take a deep breath and go, do this through an eternal perspective. Okay, number 2. Decide temporary blessings are extra, right? So, all of us have been probably blessed by God. We've seen something that God's done, and it's just kind of been unexpected, and it was awesome, and we kind of tasted and we experienced that the Lord was good, and that happened. But you cannot bank on that, because that's not faith. If you bank on that, if that's like your thing that you're trusting in and putting all your hope in, that is not something you can do. Again, it goes back to that expectancy problem. You've got to believe and just consider extra or bonus when those good things happen. But your only real reward, the only real promise in the Bible, is we have this everlasting kingdom forever and ever. Right? Okay, so number 3. Sit back and ride. You do this for your kids. We're headed off to Florida, taking them to Disney World, the most wonderful place on earth for a child, right? The vision's there. We're excited. We're driving down the road, and what are they doing? They're complaining, and they want to pull off, and how long have we been going, and isn't it time to eat, you know? So I have to, as a father, turn to my kids along the journey and say, sit back and shut up. This car is going from a destination, and there is nothing that you can do to change the destination of this car. You know, except pee. So but then we're all getting out. But you know, there's very little that you can do to change the course of this car. So just sit back and shut up. And there's decisions that you can make in the car. Like you can decide whether you're going to be nice to your brothers and sisters. You can decide whether you're going to respect your father and mother. You can make all these decisions, but at the same time, the car is headed to this destination. So just sit back and enjoy the ride. And most importantly, right? I'm not the only father that says it, right? Okay. And that's very much where we're at in our life. I mean, we do have things that we are controlled of, can control in our life. There's things that we can do. But for the most part, our life is set on a course by the everlasting God. And He weaves people's lives together. And He is in control. And your life is headed to where your life is headed. And just sit back and enjoy the ride and put your faith and your hope in the future ahead. I believe, again, that those things, that switch, making your faith about the eternal and everlasting, is when faith really begins to get deep because it changes everything. Let's pray. God, we pray that you would deepen our faith. God, as we have question marks in our lives and we don't know all the answers, God, I pray that you help us to not seek answers in things that we can see. God, that every time that happens, you can give us a reminder by your Spirit, by your wisdom, guide us. I pray that we would be able to strengthen you. We're going to be taking communion right now. We've got tables at the front.